Man, I just learned out that his name wasn't Arnie Hammer, but you know what? This guy wasn't John Halo either, so that's
Yeah.
so. So Daniel, you're our long-suffering Disney Plus Disney Plus correspondent, underpaid, in fact, unpaid Disney Plus correspondent. This
Yes.
isn't even on Disney Plus. What possessed you to watch the Halo TV show at this point?
Uh I think it was because was it last week or the week before they announced that the show had been canceled. So I thought, well, okay, and I had heard from the usual people that the show was really bad. Um, but I thought I'd I thought I'd give it a watch just because I don't know. I wanted to see just if it was as bad as everyone was saying it was. And yes, Ninja, I know. Um, it's
I mean, I
it
guess once the bad show that's kind of disgracing a franchise you like is canceled, you aren't actually hurting anything by watching on illegal channels.
That's true. Yeah. um,
You're not encouraging them.
that's true. But to be fair, I only watched the first 3 episodes, so it's not like I didn't brain my damage that much. But yeah, so I'll get into try to get into the overall plot of the first 3 episodes. So the first episode starts off where they're on a planet called I can't remember the name of it. It starts with an M. Um,
Is it
uh,
Marathon?
it's not Marathon. It's
That would have been a cute reference to their original shooter game for Apple.
oh yeah, I can't remember. It was called like it wasn't Madagascar, but it was something along those lines. Um,
Hmm.
but it starts off on this
Oh,
planet,
is
and
it New Mombasa?
no, it's not New Mombasa.
Okay. I'm a fake Halo fan, so let's just move on.
Yeah, yeah. So they're on this planet. It's a heavy water uh, place. That's where they get the UNSC gets their heavy water. But there's a group of rebels that are there that are fighting back against the UNSC. And I will say one of the things I noticed a lot from this show is they were definitely borrowing heavily from Starship Troopers in terms of like the way the human government was, or the way they act and the way people view them. Um, although the video games were probably influenced by Starship Troopers as well. But,
Yeah, and the it sounds like they're kind of borrowing a story from they have a novel that they published at the time that was kind of like the backstory to Halo 1. That's in keeping with that too.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, so they have this planet, and there are all these humans there. They hate the UNSC, and then the Covenant show up. 20 Covenant elites show up and attack. They wipe out most of the settlement. Pretty much, well, they wipe out the entire settlement except for one teenage girl named what was her name? Kwan Ha. And her father was like the leader of the resistance. Um, and then, but of course, right as the villages, right as the settlement's getting wiped out, that's when the Spartans show up. You got Master Chief and 3 other Spartans. They take out all the elites, and then they go off to find the Covenant ship. And then, as they're in the Covenant ship, they find this Forerunner artifact, and Master Chief touches it, and he starts having visions. And these are memories of his childhood. So right off the bat, we got Master Chief. We're getting backstory on the Master Chief, which I really don't. I don't think we're really supposed to know anything about his backstory other than he was a.
Well, what it sounds like is they're also pulling from that first novel, like
Okay.
like the first novel of Halo. You kind of get a you get a good idea of what he's about. Now let me ask you, like, what are the nature of these flashbacks?
He sees his parents and he sees a dog. Uh, and there's some. And so that's at the end of the 3rd episode was that he comes to the conclusion that there's another forerunner artifact on this the colony planet where he lived with his family that got
Okay.
I can't remember what happened to it. I can't remember if the Covenant attacked or if it was something else. But yeah, that's the crux of it. And the other thing too is that Ninja says he has a backstory, but he's mostly silent. Yeah, that's another thing too. Is Master Chief talks a lot in this.
And I hear we see his face a lot too.
Yeah, we see his face. Oh yeah, you see his face for like 90% of it. And
Oh, that's
yeah,
way worse than I was hoping.
yeah, yeah. And so as he's taking this kid back, and then of course, then we cut to Reach, and we meet, and then we see Dr. Halsey's there, and we also meet the Keys, so Captain Keys and Miranda Keys. Now, Captain Keys has been race swapped. I don't have a problem with that. But now I don't know anything about Halo lore. I don't know anything about backstories. I was not aware that Captain Keys and Halsey had a relationship, and that Miranda Keys is Halsey's daughter.
I do not recall if that was the case or not. I don't remember it ever coming up in the books that I read.
Yeah.
But I also read these like 15 plus years ago. So
okay, yeah. I wasn't aware of that. I'm guessing they changed that for the show. And Ninja says, yeah, they broke the #1 rule, having he should have he shouldn't have his helmet off. Yeah, it's like Judge Dredd. I mean, he never takes the helmet off.
Right, and it's also like why you kind of have to. It's kind of like The Mandalorian, where it's like you have to have an actor who's willing to have his face hidden. When realistically, if this show had been an enormous success, you want this to be a springboard for your career, and the only way for it to be a springboard for your career is for people to know your face. So it's kind of a catch-22 with these masked characters who never show themselves. That's like I understand it from like the actor's perspective why they would balk at that idea.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like it's you have to keep within the lore of the but yeah so Halsey is of course concerned about Master Chief, and then they get the orders that Quan has to be killed because she starts running her mouth about, well, I'm going to tell people that that the Spartans wiped out the village and the settlement, and not these aliens that apparently she didn't know existed. Even though the UNSC have been fighting the Covenant for years. Like, they didn't know that the Covenant existed. It's like, what?
And does she know that the Covenant are real, or is she just lying and assuming that, or is she just assuming that the Spartans wiped them out?
No, she's lying because she's a really bad person.
From what I recall, the novels, yeah, like the UNSC is a lot like the government from Starship Troopers, except that like the government of Starship Troopers has its issues, but it's like they are, at least I feel like in the movie, as much as it was trying to be like a takedown of that type of thing, I feel like the government actually. So the problem is that the underlying story is shown through, and it's like, oh, you mean that like a human government is presented with an actual threat from a bunch of alien bugs, and humanity has to try to organize to fight them off.
Yeah,
and you have people going through like a lot of moments of personal heroism in the course of things, and you thought we weren't going to like this faction. Why?
Yeah.
But as opposed to the UNSC is just goddamn evil. Like just like I don't know if they went into this, but for every kid who they selected to become a Spartan, they basically were able to make a flash clone of the kid who replaced them so that their parents wouldn't notice that anything was off. And then that flash clone would like die within 6 months or a year or so. So they would like steal their kid away, and then the parents would get to experience their kid dying of some sort of incurable, non-obvious disease.
Oh, jeez. Oh man, yeah. Oh boy. Well, speaking of Flash clone, that actually does come into it as
Okay.
part of the story. And okay, Ninja confirms that yeah, there was no relationship between Keys and Halsey. Um, so, but then so Master Chief decides to disobey those orders, and that's when he takes the helmet off so that she can see his face, and then they fly off, and then they fly off to this mining asteroids thing where a Spartan that John basically let go. You know, he escaped from the training when they were teenagers, and he has his own little mining colony. So that's where John goes. You know, Master Chief goes to dump the kid off and learn more about the artifact, and basically that this he meets this guy who's you know a little cuckoo, and uh, finds out that the guy was actually a prisoner of the Covenant, and then they let him go. Um, or here he escaped or whatever, and he tells him that you know this, you know, basically that oh, you know the, you know this is really, you know, this is really bad, and you know you're you know whatever, and you know apparently like uh, Master Chief has some weird gift that he can touch Forerunner technology and it makes it work. Um, and
That's based on some nonsense from the 343 games, like where he's like a chosen one type, where he has like Forerunner DNA or something. I forget. It's stupid.
yeah, and not just him, but there. I forgot to mention too. There's also a human girl who has the same thing, and she's living with the Covenant, and she's basically like working with the prophets, and so and they're trying to get their hands on the artifact too, and
Hmm.
so and then the third episode was in order for Master Chief to come back into the fold so that people can trust him again. Uh, Halsey uses a flash clone of her, and that she created in case she needed like an organ. Uh, but instead, what they do is they use the brain from the clone and basically like digitize it, and that's Cortana.
Hmm.
And then and I'm sure you remember in the games where like Cortana was basically like on a memory drive, and
Hmm.
he just put it into his helmet. They
Hmm.
implant Cortana directly into Master Chief's brain.
Huh.
Yeah, and that's their way of like keeping control of him. And I will say, uh, one good thing they did was they got the voice actors who played Cortana in the games to play her in the show, and they had like another actress doing motion capture for her. But like I said, the end of that episode is where Master Chief figures out that there's another Forerunner artifact on the colony planet where he lived on, and of course the Covenant are after that too, because of the fact that this artifact is part of Halo, can like turn Halo on, or you know. So yeah, that's it, it's incredible. Like there really aren't any action, like aside from that opening action scene in the first episode. There's no action in it at all. It's mainly a lot of talking and a lot of
Talking in hallways.
talking in hallways, talking in labs, talking on ships, and you know a lot of the you know political stuff, and you know it's just it's I found it to be incredible. Like at least in these first three episodes, just I don't know if it's just the way that they were telling the story or what have you, but I just found it incredibly dull. And it's very slow. It's really slow, which I guess is, I mean, that's kind of a common thing you see with a lot of streaming shows. Is just the pacing is very slow.
Right.
Um,
You wonder what could have been if they just taken that budget and made a movie.
I know, yeah. Oh, or made a show that's more in line with the first video game.
Yeah, like I don't get these people who get these properties and their first instinct is to start changing things.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I don't get it either. And
Because like as I was listening to your description, I was thinking to myself, that is basically like that prequel novel to before the first game.
yeah,
And as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking to myself, so it sounds like it echoes that, and they're taking stuff from that, but they're like needlessly changing things.
yeah, and the problem I have, big problem I have with it is just completely is changing Master Chief. You know, turning him into, you know, kind of like one. I'm trying to think of another character to kind of compare him to. He was kind of like Doom Guy. I mean, basically, and now he's just kind of this like, I hate to say, kind of a sad sack.
I think the thing is that Master Chief, if he spoke more, would probably come off like that, just because the dude has gone through a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But like in the games, they were good at using silent acting and like his body language, his gruff little statements to Cortana. Like you knew how important Cortana was to him because she was basically the person he had interacted with the most for a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it sounds like they just kind of dropped the ball repeatedly on this one.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, oh, Ninja points out Oni is the main source of evil in the UNSC. I think I remember that from ODST. Um,
All right, like their CIA equivalent or KGB
yeah,
equivalent. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, if this was me doing this show, like I probably would have started off with like the Fall of Reach, and then gone to the first game.
Yeah, that would have been a good option. Or if you wanted to like focus it more on Master Chief, just adapt that first novel straightforwardly.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can see why people didn't like this show, um, and I can understand why it got canceled after 2 seasons.
Now, would you say that you feel like this, like some people said, oh, this show hates Halo. Would you say that's the case, or is it more just like it misses the mark?
I think it just misses the mark. Um, I don't get I think the people who making the show probably weren't big fans of Halo. Much like the people who were working on The Witcher. But
Like,
yeah,
Witcher's a good example, like because I heard people just on there saying like they just hated the source material and wanted to change everything because they hated the source material rather than like being misguided. So
yeah, and I don't know enough about like the making of this series. I don't know the thought processes of the people behind it, what they were, why they made the creative decisions that they did. So I'm going to, you know, willing to give them the benefit of the doubt and that they just didn't know what they were doing. Um, although I will say I have heard some of the comments from the guy who played Master Chief. He didn't do the show any favors. Let's just say.
no, and some of the comments I heard from the creators. Well,
Yeah.
so I guess what you're saying overall is that you're not missing much if you just boot up the Master Chief Collection and play through Halo 1 again.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Just play the game. Yeah. Just play the games. Yeah.
You can stop after 3, or no, you
Yeah.
can stop after Reach.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop it. Yeah. Stop after Reach. Yeah. That's a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.